Hi, everyone. I want to tell you about Mark. He's a patient of mine who came into my office the other day feeling completely defeated. Now, Mark's 45-year-old business executive, super high achiever, had built a successful career, but over the past few years, he'd been struggling with crippling fatigue, mood swings, anxiety, and what he called brain fog. And by that I mean he had less clarity, more forgetfulness, kind of felt like he was in a fog, right? He told me, Dr. Nandi, I feel like I'm losing my mind. I forget words mid-sentence. I can't focus at work. My energy crashes so hard in the afternoons that I need 2 energy drinks just to make it through the day. And at night, I'm wired but exhausted. I can't sleep, so I just sit there scrolling through my phone, eating junk food until I pass out. I'm talking about Mark, but I'm sure a lot of you are watching and listening kind of feel the same way. This is something a lot of people experience. And I'll tell you, this was not the same man that he used to be. Mark told me he was full of energy, sharp and ambitious, and now he felt like he was barely hanging on. So I wanted to dig in a little bit. I said, let's see what's going on. I asked Mark about his diet. I asked him about breakfast. Well, he said usually a bagel and a caramel latte. Sound familiar? How about lunch, I asked Mark. He said a sandwich and a sugary snack, maybe a soda. How about afternoon? Well, it's energy drinks and a candy bar to stay awake. Oh boy, I'm like, oh boy, this is not going well. And dinner often was takeout, pasta, pizza, or just fast food. And then late night, he's not sleeping, right? And ice cream or cookies before bed. So every time his blood sugar spiked, he felt an initial burst of energy, right? But then the inevitable crash would hit, leaving him drained, irritable, unable to think straight. And a lot of us feel this way, when we have the kind of stuff that Mark is eating. And Mark was caught in the sugar, insulin, dopamine cycle. He didn't even know about it, didn't even realize it. And his diet was full of processed carbs, sugars, and caffeine, which were spiking his insulin levels and triggering stress hormones, like the ones that we've talked about before, cortisol, leading to inflammation, poor brain function, and ultimately severe mood instability. But here's what really bothered me and concerned me a lot was his mental health. So Mark had been battling low-grade depression and anxiety for years, right? But in the last year, it had come to a head. It had worsened significantly. He'd seen multiple physicians who prescribed him, antidepressants, right? We in medicine, listen, it's no fault. We're, I think, super smart and caring people, but we're trained to be very, very reactive. Somebody comes in, you give them a pill, it's up the door, right? Very quick. You can do that. And so people are giving them antidepressants and sleeping pills, but he still felt horrible. And so I reviewed his diet and symptoms and I had a good idea of what was happening. So I ordered a series of blood tests to check his numbers, right? And to no surprise, the results of those blood tests confirmed that Mark's body wasn't handling blood sugar properly. So the science, but here's the science behind what was happening to Mark. So chronic insulin resistance leads to inflammation, which fuels depression. Mark's constant high blood sugar triggered chronic inflammation, which then, as research shows, is a major driver of depression. And I tell you, in our nation, in the Western world, we have a crisis of depression, anxiety. And so in Mark's case, this inflammation was disrupting his brain's ability to regulate mood and cognitive function. And sugar actually reduces BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. So BDNF makes depression worse. Now, BDNF is a protein that can help the brain grow and repair itself. It's essential for learning, memory, and mental resilience. All important stuff, right? High sugar intake has been linked to lower BDNF levels, which is why folks with insulin resistance often experience depression, the cognitive decline, which means they're not thinking properly, they're not functioning at a high level, and it can also result in brain fog. And Mark told me, I feel like my brain is slow, like it's not working the way it used to. That's a classic sign of low BDNF. So the other part I was thinking about was, hey, why is Mark always on edge? So the roller coaster of sugar spikes and crashes was also wreaking havoc on Mark's cortisol levels, okay? So every time his blood sugar spiked, his body released insulin to bring it down, right? That's what insulin's for. It's like blood sugar spikes, signal, insulin needs to come up, bring it down. But when his blood sugar crashed, because the insulin, right, his body saw it as an emergency. So what did it do? It released cortisol. There's an emergency, it's battle, you got to hunt or fight or something. So body thinks there's an emergency, so it releases cortisol. That's our stress hormone to bring his blood sugar back up. This constant up and down cycle of insulin and cortisol was putting Mark's nervous system into overdrive, making him jittery, anxious, irritable all the time. And this may sound familiar to many of you, and it may not just be Mark, right? Mark told me I was waking up feeling stressed. I go to bed feeling stressed. Have no idea even why, he told me. So this was not just emotional stress, it was biological stress. Super important to understand that. Not just emotional stress, but biological stress caused by his diet and insulin imbalances, right? So this, and then I talked about, with Mark, brain fog and memory issues. Was this what's called, quote unquote, type 3 diabetes? During the time when I talked to him, one of Mark's biggest concern was his brain fog and memory problems. He told me, Doc, I walk into rooms and forget why I'm there. I struggle to focus in meetings. I used to be sharp, but now I feel like I'm in a constant haze. And a lot of my patients have told me about this, not just Mark. And what Mark was experiencing was the early signs of insulin resistance affecting brain function. We now have research that refers to Alzheimer's disease as type 3 diabetes. Why? Because of how insulin resistance damages brain cells and accelerates cognitive decline. So neurons, the cells in the brain, relies on glucose for energy. When insulin resistance develops, guess what happens? These neurons or cells struggle to use glucose efficiently. And that leads to poor concentration, memory lapses, and brain fog. So over time, this insulin dysfunction, well, it increases the risk of this catastrophic disease called Alzheimer's and other neurodegenerative diseases. Alzheimer's, to me, is a crisis in our nation. You know, we're just, the curves for Alzheimer's are not going like this, it's like this. So Mark's symptoms were a warning sign that his brain was struggling to process glucose properly. If he didn't change his diet, he was on a path toward early cognitive decline, which can be catastrophic. If you guys know of anybody with Alzheimer's disease, I've had several of my patients. I'll tell you, my patients probably worry about Alzheimer's and cognitive decline even more than death, you know, in my patient population. So we had to have a plan in turning Mark's health around. So, you know, we had to get a sugar reset plan. I told Mark, you are not broken. Your brain is just overwhelmed with inflammation, insulin resistance, and dopamine burnout. But the good news is that we can reverse this. And here's what I did. Number one, removed processed sugars and refined carbs. So we took out the sugary drinks, pastries, and processed snacks, number one. Instead, start eating protein-rich breakfast like eggs with avocado. A lot of my kids, they love eggs with avocado. So we, you know, it's not just with Mark. My whole family, my own family does this. And when he started doing this, right, eating protein-rich breakfasts, right, Mark's blood sugar stabilized. Step two, increase healthy fats and protein to support dopamine and insulin sensitivity. So I added more omega-3 rich foods like salmon, walnuts, and flax seeds. So salmon's, you know, our whole family loves them, and flax seeds. Many of my patients in my family also loves to eat them. And this supports brain function and reduces inflammation. Omega-3 rich foods support brain function, reduces inflammation. And Mark also swapped out processed carbs for fiber-rich foods like quinoa and vegetables. So one of my sons, my 12-year-old, he actually loves quinoa better than rice, right? So Mark had quinoa and vegetables to stabilize blood sugar levels. Step three was reducing stress without relying on sugar or caffeine, right? So not the energy drinks or coffee all day. So Mark started morning meditation and short walks after meals, and that helped lower cortisol levels, right? We focus on better sleep, cutting out late night sugar and screen time. Super important, screen time, at least 90 minutes before you go to bed. That's important. But Mark cut out the screen time, and that helped regulate his circadian rhythm. That's kind of your natural rhythm that helps you know when to wake up, when to sleep, right? Helps to regulate that. Step four was healing his gut to support brain function. We introduced probiotic-rich foods like kimchi, yogurt, fermented veggies to support the gut-brain connection. Remember, the gut and the brain are constantly in connection, and they're talking about, you know, what their status is through the vagus nerve, through neurotransmitters, right? And gut health, it plays a massive role in serotonin production. In fact, over 90% of serotonin is produced in your gut. And within a few weeks, hey, Mark noticed a significant improvement in his mood. So Mark's transformation, right? Within 4 weeks, his afternoon crashes were gone. He no longer needed energy drinks to get through the day. His anxiety decreased dramatically. He felt calmer and more in control. His mood improved. Brain fog started lifting. Woo, hallelujah. So within 3 months, guess what happened? His memory was sharper. He was able to focus in meetings again. The old Mark was back. He lost 15 pounds without dieting. To me, diet is a bad word anyway. But Mark lost 15 pounds with no dieting, just by balancing his blood sugar, because you didn't have that cycle of insulin resistance leading to obesity, right? Sleep was improved for Mark, and he woke up feeling refreshed instead of groggy. Mark told me, Dr. Nandi, I feel like I got my life back. It was really, I'll tell you, it's very rewarding. That's the best part about being a doc, is that you make differences in people's lives. So let's talk about how blood tests can identify insulin resistance, at least, may help you to be able to identify what insulin is doing and if insulin resistance is affecting your life. So if you're concerned about insulin resistance, there are specific blood tests that can help. These tests check your blood sugar, insulin levels, and other markers that show how well your body handles glucose. So first is the fasting insulin test. This checks how much insulin is in your blood after you fasted for 8 to 12 hours. So if your insulin levels are high, right, it may be a sign of insulin resistance. Second is HOMA-IR, so homeostatic model assessment of insulin resistance. HOMA-IR. This test calculates insulin resistance by using both fasting glucose and fasting insulin levels. A score above 1.9 to 2 suggests some insulin resistance, and above 2.9 indicates significant insulin resistance. Number 3 is the fasting blood glucose level. This test measures the amount of glucose in your blood after fasting, right? If your blood sugar level is consistently above 100 milligrams per deciliter, it could indicate prediabetes. Above 126, it suggests diabetes. Fourth test, hemoglobin A1C. It's very important. This test provides an average of your blood sugar levels over the past 2 to 3 months. A result above 5.7 suggests insulin resistance, with above 6.5 indicating diabetes. Fifth test, glucose tolerance test, or a 2-hour oral glucose tolerance test, also called OGTT. So, in this test, after fasting, you drink a sugary solution, and your blood sugar levels will be measured at different intervals. If your blood sugar level is above 140 milligrams per deciliter after 2 hours, this is suggestive of insulin resistance. Test number 6, Kraft insulin test, or insulin assay during OGTT. This test is similar to the glucose tolerance test, but also measures insulin levels at multiple points. It can detect insulin resistance even if your blood sugar appears to be normal. Number 7, the triglyceride to HDL ratio. And this test, well, it compares the amount of triglycerides, or the fats, in your blood to your HDL, which is considered your good cholesterol. A ratio above 2.5 to 3, well, that suggests insulin resistance. Number 8, blood test, right? Number 8, C-peptide test. This test measures how much insulin your body is actually producing. High levels of C-peptide may indicate that your body is making too much insulin due to insulin resistance. It's really important for people like Mark to get these tests done, because insulin resistance often goes undiagnosed for years, even though it can contribute to many health problems. And really identifying it helps you to get better management, including lifestyle changes. I mentioned this before, and medical interventions if needed. So where can you get these tests, right? People can get these tests done at various places, including your primary care doctor or specialist. And many of these tests, right, especially the fasting blood glucose, hemoglobin A1C, and insulin levels, they can be ordered by a primary care doctor or even an endocrinologist. And you can get these at labs, these tests at labs and diagnostic centers. Independent laboratories offer these tests. You can often request them directly or through a doctor's referral, typically through a doctor's referral. Hospitals can also have outpatient labs where you can get these tests done. Also health clinics. Some walk-in clinics or wellness centers offer testing for conditions like insulin resistance and diabetes. It's a good idea, of course. Always check with your insurance provider to make sure you have coverage for these tests. First, you want to know what you're into, because stuff can get expensive. So listen, I think Mark's story is proof that mental health isn't just about willpower or mindset. It can really be deeply connected to what's happening inside your body. If you're struggling with mood swings, anxiety, brain fog, or depression, hey, your diet could be the missing piece. And here's the key: you can heal. You can reverse insulin resistance, and you can control your health. And you can be the master of your health and be your health hero. So are you ready to break free from sugar crashes and emotional eating? I'd like to do this together with you. Please drop a comment below with your biggest struggle, and don't forget to subscribe for more science-backed health tips. Please stay strong, stay healthy, and keep being a health hero.